But if you could make the music you feel without knowing any music theory? I made this lo-fi track in under 10 minutes, but for this one I challenged myself. I intentionally put all my music theory knowledge aside to prove that you can get a result like this using only AI. So, if you want to learn how, let's dive right in. First, head over to ChatGPT or any AI assistant and type something like this. Then write the chords down. Trust me, your future self will thank you. To start, create a new pattern and open up the piano roll. After that, use the sum tool to enter the chords that AI gave us. Our first chord is C major 7, so we select major 7 from the list and click on C. Next up is A minor 7, same process, select min 7, click on A and it writes the chord. We repeat that for D minor 7 the same way. Then we have G7. For that, go to the advanced section in the sum tool, pick 7 and click on G. Now there is one extra chord that works as a passing or a decorative chord between G7 and C major 7, that's B diminished 7. I couldn't find diminished 7 in the stamp tool, so we pick diminished and write that in. To turn it into a B diminished 7, we just need to manually add a G sharp. If you already know what notes to add, great. If not, just Google the chord name. Tons of websites will tell you the notes. In this case, it's B, D, F, G sharp. We already had the first series, so we just add the G sharp manually, and that's our base chord progression. Now keep this pattern aside, we'll come back to it later, I'll name it cheat and you'll see why soon. This will be the main chord progression, let's call it piano chord. I found this super lightweight and free piano plugin called Keyzone Classic. It sounds pretty nice and you can easily download it from their site. Personally, I love the Yamaha Grand preset. Let's start by extending the note length so there is no unwanted silence between the chords. To make it sound better, I'm moving the higher notes one octave down so all the notes sit closer together and sound more cohesive. Here is something cool, we have an F note that repeats across 3 different chords. I call these golden notes. Let's duplicate the notes an octave higher just to add a bit of flavor. Alright, now we need to humanize the chords, otherwise they sound robotic and flat. In FL Studio, you can use the Humanize tool under Tools Humanize, which slightly shifts the timing and velocity of the notes. Studio One, Cubase and most DAWs have something similar. But even if yours doesn't, you can just manually adjust note velocities and timing to make it feel like it was played by a human. Just make sure you don't have overlapping identical notes, cause the second one might get cut off or not trigger properly. Let's play it back and see how it feels. I think moving this G sharp one octave down might help it sit better. In bar 2, I want to feel this space a little, so I'll copy the notes A and C one octave up. Let's repeat this A again and see what it does. Nice, that's working well. That wraps up our chord progression. Now let's record the melody using the same piano sound. First I'll duplicate the piano cause I want to apply different effects to each layer. Let's go ahead and record the melody. This melody you're hearing, I actually played it by feel. I wasn't thinking about music theory at all. It might sound a bit complex, but it's really not. Since I recorded this using a MIDI controller, the velocities come out a bit too high, so I lowered them to make the sound softer and more natural. I'm also shifting some notes slightly by hand to align them better with the groove. I avoid using automatic quantization, cause I don't want it to sound robotic. I'm gonna increase the delay between them a bit, it should sound more natural and relaxed. You don't need to understand music theory to create something beautiful, just trust your ears. Even if you're just starting out, hum something that feels right and try to find it on your instrument. That's how I started years ago. That emotional connection you build with your melody is way more important than knowing all the rules. I've routed the chord piano and the melody piano to two separate mixer channels. First, I'll quickly throw on a compressor just to keep the levels under control. For the next effect, I'm adding vinyl, a free plugin from Isotope that emulates the lo-fi sound of vintage records. It has several year models. The older the year, the less low range you get. Since this is a chord layer, I wanna keep some low end, so I'll choose the 1970 setting. I'll set the veer to about 10% for saddle texture. I'll also add a bit of mechanical noise and just a touch of dust, which gives it that randomized crackle like old vinyl. This slider here controls how fast the dust appears. I'm also lowering the gain just slightly. There is also a warp setting that adds some pitch fluctuation. I'll keep that at a medium level, nothing too crazy. For the warp model, I'll use the invert peak. It gives a slightly more organic wobble. Finally, I'll cut some low and high frequencies with an EQ to round it off. On the melody piano, I'm adding a compressor as well, but with more aggressive settings and a faster attack. I'll also apply vinyl here, but with the 1960 model to make it sound even older and dustier. A little bit of mechanical noise. Let's give it a bit of that dusty vibe. Bump up the warp a little and switch it to invert peak mode. And finally, let's turn up the veer a bit to give it more character. Then I'll tweak the EQ, boosting some mids while reducing the lows and highs so the melody sits better on the mix. I created the Drumkit off camera. I didn't record the process cause it might get boring, but if you are interested, leave a comment and I'll make a separate video just about the Drumkit and explain everything I did. Here are the samples I used. I curated a custom pack specifically tailored for lo-fi. I routed all the Drumkit elements into a single mixer channel so I could apply effects to all of them at once. First, I added a vinyl plugin and set it to the 2000 mode so we don't lose the low end. Then I added a simple EQ to reduce the high frequencies. I also used a stereo enhancer to slightly narrow the stereo image since in lo-fi we don't really want too much stereo width. Finally, I added a multiband compressor mainly to smooth out the mid-range. So here is the result. This is what the drum kit sounds like. Now let's hear it with the piano. Let's write the bass line. At the beginning of the video, we created a pattern called cheat. Let me explain what the purpose of that was. First, I'll extend the length of the all notes in the cheat pattern and mute them, because we don't wanna hear them, they're just a visual guide. Then in the same pattern, I add a bass plugin like FL Studio's Boo Bass. Now when we open the piano roll, we can see all the notes from the cheat pattern. These are the exact notes we'll use to write the bass line and later on the chords. Writing the bass becomes super easy. You just place the bass notes on the root notes of the chords. I'll quickly lay out the bass pattern. I think I'll also add a pitch bend here. It will make it more expressive. Let's also turn up the bass and reduce the treble and mid-range a bit. Alright, that's the final sound with some quick mastering touches. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you next time.